in the Q&A section. If you don't see that, look down in the bottom right-hand corner. There's a little ellipsis down there. Open up Q&A. Put Q&A or any questions in that Q&A section. If we have any links, we will put those in the chat for you to click on. The multimedia viewer, as I mentioned, is also down in that area. You can click on there and follow us along. Read along with us if you'd like. And it looks like Cassie just started the recording. So I think we can introduce ourselves. Craig, you want to take it away?
Sure. Craig Kiger. I am the shooting sports coordinator for the Minnesota DNR and started rabbit hunting at about 12 years old.
Hi, everybody. My name is James Burnham. I'm the Recruitment, Retention, and Reactivation Coordinator for the state of Minnesota. I've been rabbit hunting, but thanks to my teaching days, I've probably dissected more rabbits than hunted rabbits. So I've got a slightly different perspective on rabbits than just as a hunter.
And I'm Benji Cohen. I have the honorary pest control specialist for my grandparents starting when I was about 10 years old. So my grandparents lived on a little farm outside of Red Wing, Minnesota, and I got to go there and take care of some pigeons and rats and squirrels and rabbits. So starting with a little Daisy pellet gun and moving up to a 22 and a shotgun and a little 410 when you get a little bit older. So I think we can start off with a slideshow, Craig.
Okay. So in Minnesota, we have 3 species of rabbit: the eastern cottontail, the snowshoe hare, and the white-tailed jackrabbit. And they incorporate other areas of the state. Some overlap a little bit. So the cottontail is the smallest of the rabbit species, 12 to 16 inches long, and 2 to 3 pounds live weight. I wouldn't give them that much dressed out. They really like the brushy areas. They'll hang out around the conifers, provides them some cover from aerial predators, and they like to feed on the grasses and clovers and stuff like that along yards or forest trails or whatever. You can see from the little distribution, they cover a good part of the state, except for the far north regions. So this part really surprised me. Hunters harvest about 60,000 cottontails a year, and each year about 80% of Minnesota's cottontail population dies from weather, predators, and disease. That remaining 20% has little trouble repopulating the state with cottontails. And they're fairly nervous critter. One of the things that I learned early on in rabbit hunting was to mimic the sound of a hawk. And just by whistling, the rabbits would freeze and you could move into a position to get a good shot on them. Cottontail is by far the best eating rabbit in my opinion. And stews, braised, roast them with vegetables in the oven. And there's what a track would look like in the snow. That rabbit there is probably moving pretty good because the front feet are behind the back feet, and they launch those back feet out in front to propel them forward. Oh, I got to go down here. The next one is the snowshoe or varying hare. Varying because they change color. There's a picture of a snowshoe up in the corner, and during the summer and early fall, they are brown. They turn white in the wintertime, and it says none for sound, but except a loud scream. And if you ever try predator hunting, you're going to try and mimic the sound of that snowshoe hare because most of our predators like to have snowshoe hare. They live more in the northern part of the state. You don't see them down south, and they'll live all the way up to Alaska. So it's a pretty hardy species for cold weather. And the reason we call them the snowshoe hare is the size of their tracks. You'll notice down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there, those back feet spread out. There's lots of hair in there. It gives them flotation, and they can float right on top of the snow. Because they rise and fall on a 10-year cycle. So some years there's going to be snowshoes everywhere, and gradually they decline till they get down to just a few remaining hares, and they slowly repopulate back up. It says in the 8081 survey, we harvested about 286,000, and just 5 years later, it was down to 12,000. So that's still quite a few hares that got harvested. So in the summertime or the wintertime, if you look up in the top left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see that white variation that they get. And sometimes nature plays a little bit of a trick. It's caused by the amount of daylight, and the rabbits will start to turn white before the snow arrives. And that was always a great time to go out and hunt rabbits, because the white rabbits on a brown landscape would show up. And if we could get a deer season where we didn't get much snow, the rabbits were always nice and white after, and we'd go out and hunt a lot of snowshoe hares during that time. And the final species is the white-tailed jackrabbit. And I've lived in southern Minnesota. I've goose hunted up in Plumas, Manitoba, and I did shoot a jackrabbit while goose hunting. He came across the stubble field, and I shot him. And the people we were staying with, she made a rabbit and gravy and baked it in the oven, and it was interesting. Little on the tougher side, but it had good flavor, and it was just okay. Another species to add to the list. And these things can cover ground. I mean, 10 feet to a leap. So when it came running through, it was like the first shot was well behind the rabbit, and finally caught up to it and got it on the second or third shot. 2 feet long, 3 to 4 inch stub tail, 6 to 10 pounds. I mean, it's a good sized rabbit. They are not a true rabbit. And rabbits are born blind and hairless, and hares are born with hair and their eyes are open. Let me go down and change the slide here. And under fun facts, the jackrabbit is actually a hare. And I suppose common naming, people called them rabbits, so they became rabbits. We do have them. They aren't as plentiful as the other species, but if you live in the Southwest farming country, you might find them down there. It says predators take several times more jacks than hunters do. It's got to be an ambush type situation, because I can't think of any animal that can run quite as fast as I've seen jackrabbits run. So cover. This is a couple photos of summer cover and winter cover, but you notice it's that conifer. It's there's some cedar in the winter scene, and that's what rabbits are going to live in. And the unique thing about the wintertime is you're going to be able to find the tracks and be able to figure out where they're living, what they're doing. So those photos were courtesy of our own DNR folks and the Leech Lake Band Ojibwe Division of Resource Management. We want to thank them for sharing some photos for this presentation today. You can improve your existing cover by planting food plots. I mean, you go out and put in some just small strips of clover, and the rabbits are going to find it. The chop and drop technique is we use Sandvix, and young aspen, you can snap them and fold them over, and when you fold them over all along the edge of that opening, and that brushy cut up cover is going to provide them a place to live. and hang out because they are probably more concerned about the aerial predators than the other ones. And when I was a kid, we created a lot of brush piles on the farm. We'd go out and brush out a fence row and put those brush piles up. And I thought we were going to go back and burn them. And I got to say, you know, the farmers that I knew back in the day, they were really good conservationists because they knew if they left those brush piles alone, the rabbits had a place to live, and they probably had burrows in those under those brush piles. The aerial predators can't get to them, and four-legged predators can't get in there either. Yeah. So, like I said, we built lots and lots of brush piles, and some of them were huge. I mean, 10 to 12 feet, 15 feet across, and some were smaller. And one of the tricks that we learned for rabbit hunting was you get somebody up on top of that brush pile and bounce up and down a little bit, and maybe the rabbits would come out of the brush pile, and you'd have a opportunity to shoot. My very first rabbit hunt, guys, I was 12 years old, and I was given a Winchester 12 gauge single shot shotgun. And we went out to the farm and worked on the brush piles, and then I got to do a little rabbit hunting on the end of the day. And that's what we looked for, was those brush piles, because there was a lot of tracks going in and out of those. I talked to the wildlife department about this a little bit, and red osier dogwood is a great winter food source. The deer love it for browse. The rabbits like it as well. And they were telling me that you can cut the stems and just push those into the ground and they will root. And the plants that you cut them from will tend to grow bushier, thicker, and provide more cover. You see in the background here, we've got some pine and cedar back there. They're holding a lot of snow off the ground. So a lot of critters like living on that edge where they can come out and feed on the browse and then go back into the cover where it's warmer. That conifer cover is going to hold a warmer temperature in there than the outside area. Here's a picture of a created habitat. They were doing some work on creating artificial habitat by stacking up the brush after a logging sale. And so every so often they would have the logger just pile all the brush, and that log laying down holds that brush up off the ground so that the rabbits can get underneath it real easy. You can create artificial denning sites by using an old culvert or plastic pipes. I'm surprised at the number of rabbits that I see out by my food plot machinery. They just feel comfortable in there. They like the weeds. You can create nesting cover in grassy areas or ditches, pastures. It's important to be well drained, and they should be protected from overgrazing, mowing, burning during the nesting season, March through September. Rabbits will have multiple litters a year. I think that's where the saying breeds like rabbits come in. And, you know, they can add to the population very quickly. Here's a picture of a snowshoe that's crawled under a log, and you can see how well they blend in with their surroundings, with the snow and stuff that's there. It just looks like another patch of snow. And one of the things in winter rabbit hunting that we looked for was that black eye, because that stood out. Don't look for the whole rabbit, because then he's probably running already. But if you take a few steps and survey the area in front of you, that little black eye would give him away. So you guys growing up, Benji and James, for us it was a species of opportunity. We might be out walking a woodland trail for grouse, and we'd kick up a rabbit, and it became a rabbit hunt at that point. How did you guys hunt rabbits as a kid, Benji, on the farm?
Well, mine was, we had a lot of old buildings. It's, one of the tips I'd give is if you have a place where there's old buildings or abandoned property or something like that, where you can go around the old corn crib and the old
Mm-hmm.
sheep barn and stuff, where you could always get something out of there if you go knock on the back of it, kick the building, and usually get a rabbit to run out, or every once in a while you get a skunk to run out and you got to watch out for that. But so that's
Yeah.
kind of how I started. Then walking the fence rows and checking on stuff. We always carried my grandpa always had one on the fender of his tractor, had his old 12 gauge on there. But
Mm-hmm.
if I was walking the fence rows and I was allowed to carry a BB gun or the 410 or something, it was always, you'd spook them out of the fence rows quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit. So especially if you had a dog, dogs are helpful when you're rabbit hunting. So
Yeah. And just about any species of dog would work. Beagles are the preferred species, and I know James, you had an opportunity to hunt behind some beagles. Was it interesting?
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't grow up hunting rabbits. I was a city kid, and I spent a lot of time outdoors and in the woods. But my first exposure to it, my stepdad, even though we were in the city, he was a little bit country, and he would trap rabbits in our garden, and
Yep.
just some clandestine pest removal. But he'd put them to use, and we'd cook them up. So gardens are a great place to go after rabbits. The old stereotypical Peter Cottontail story.
Yeah.
Hopefully none of them are wearing a little blue jacket when you trap them, but um, yeah, and the hunting experience that I have done, it has been with dogs. We um, we ran packs of beagles in wetlands, those cattail marshes that
Yep.
they get
Yep.
they get bowed over with a good snow, and the birds, the rabbits will burrow under the tunnels, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll actually be quite a bit of rabbit activity underneath the snow and those cattail
Mm-hmm.
tunnels that you would never see unless you had a dog in there. And it's a lot of fun because the beagles are small enough they can get down under the snow and hit those tunnels, and you'll be standing there, and all of a sudden this beagle will just erupt out of the snow at your feet, and it's a hoot. It's a pretty active and engaging way to do it, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
We had a good friend of ours, and if it wasn't for wild game, they didn't get a lot of meat at home, and so we would organize rabbit drives. So think of a deer drive, but on a smaller scale, and we would put posters up on top of a ditch bank or elevated hill knob, whatever, and then we would line the guys up and walk slowly through there towards the drivers, and you would be pushing rabbits ahead of you. Rabbits tend to want to loop back around to where they were originally jumped because they have a fairly small area that they live in. But it was amazing. I mean, you take 4 or 5 guys out there, and we could shoot 5 rabbits each, and we would stake out the legs, and so you could have a basically a leg and a thigh, if you will, of a rabbit, and his mom would brown them and make a gravy in a pan and put them in the oven. Crock pots changed that a lot because now you could just put them in the crock pot and slow cook them all day, and they'd come out really, really tender. As I mentioned before, we'd do a lot of that right after deer season before the snow would come, and that white rabbit on a brown ground. And I did most of my rabbit hunting with a 22. I know Benji said he used a shotgun, and I have shot him with a shotgun on a grouse hunt, but a scope-sighted 22, and I learned so much from following rabbit tracks as a kid, and a lot of that come into play later when I started deer hunting on my own. You could track a rabbit down and go slow, and all of a sudden you spot that black eye, and he's just sitting there by a tree, and try to make a well placed shot because you didn't want to ruin too much meat. But those were a good way to do some actual hunting for rabbits.
I think that's a
Um,
great way to get out, especially early in the day, because they like to get right on that edge of the fields and the
mhm.
woods there. And if you got a spot out in the field where you can sit there with a, scope 22 and just kind of pluck away, waiting for them to pop out there. But
Pop out, yeah. And did you guys ever snare rabbits when you were kids?
I've tried.
In Minnesota, we can snare rabbits. If you're under 13 years of age, you don't need a trapping license. And it's just a thin wire snare that you put on a rabbit trail. And if you watch any of those survival shows like Alone, those folks survived a lot on snaring rabbits, you know. Here in Minnesota, the limit is 10 in combination. So you could have 5 cottontails and 5 snowshoes and still be in your limit. And you can have 2-day possession limit of 20. You know, so if they're 2 to 3 pound rabbits, you got 40 to 60 pounds of meat going into your freezer. The information I found, it said jackrabbits were a limit of 1, but somebody pointed out earlier or a little bit later to me that might be higher. It might be actually 3 rabbits in your daily limit, but we can double check on that if somebody's got questions. And remember, when you're rabbit or small game hunting of any kind, whether it's rabbits and squirrels, you got to wear an article of blaze orange or pink, and that's to be able to be seen by your fellow hunters out there. You know, just a hat was the minimum, but I've got a nice little vest that I put on, an upland vest, and people can see me. I've got places to store my ammo and my gloves, and it's not a big addition that they put on us when they said that. So Benji's our shotgun hunter. 410 to 12 gauge will work for hunting rabbits, right, Benji?
Yeah, I used to have I had a little 410 when I was a kid, and I loved that gun. It was a great gun for hunting rabbits with. So
Yeah, and light recoil. I mean, you can introduce a young person to hunting rabbits. Small game rules. I mean, I don't think there's any age where you couldn't go out with a parent or guardian and try to collect a rabbit. Personally, I like a little bit bigger shot size, like a 4, 5, or 6. They used to make field loads or game loads, and field loads were designed for a little bit bigger than your grouse and your dove and quail grouse loads. I found that 7.5, 8s, or even 9s, boy, would they leave a lot of pellets in the meat. And you'd try and pick them all out, but pray that somebody didn't bite down on a chunk of lead. And James and I found in stocking up for our Learn to Hunt programs, we actually have non-toxic steel shot designed for small game hunting. And so that's a choice for hunters out there. There's a picture of just a standard 870, and I've shot them with a 28-inch barrel, full choke, because that's what all guns seemed to be made back in the day. But now I've got a 26-inch barrel, and that tends to work really nice in thicker cover. I think a modified choke would be adequate across the board. And the repeaters are nice because sometimes one shot doesn't catch up to the rabbit. If they're moving, you might shoot way behind them. Let's go on to the next one here. James, when you were hunting, did you use a 22 or a shotgun?
I was using a shotgun. Yeah, so I was using a 12 gauge with some really light game loads, 2 3/4 inch. I mean, it's the same shotgun I use for turkey, for waterfowl. I mean, it's my utility gun that kind of does everything that I need. And you know, it may be a little overkill for rabbits, but you know, it'll put them down.
Yeah, and I know that both you and your son have 22s, and you know, those are great little marksmanship training tools. If you can go out with your 22, and I got scopes on most of mine. I know you run iron sights on yours. But yeah, you can build a lot of field experience with that little 22, and it carries over when you switch over to big game hunting. How to run that bolt, how to run that lever. The little semi-auto picture there is what I've got a Ruger 1022, and that's a lot of fun to go out. You start learning about bullet drop, and the longest shot I ever made on a rabbit was about 60 yards. The guys couldn't believe it. We could see that white rabbit sitting underneath next to a tree, and it was brown all around him. And with how I had my 22 sighted in, I had to hold above his ears to drop the bullet into him. And so it was like, okay, if I hit him, I hit him. If I don't, we'll find him later, because he'll probably just run off a short distance. I liked hollow points for hunting small game rabbits and squirrels. I wanted a bullet that was going to be effective with, one shot, but I have shot them with just a lead round nose bullet too. I've just started using some non-toxic 22s. Have you tried any of those yet, James?
I shoot with them. I haven't taken anything with well, that's not true. I've taken squirrel with non-toxic 22s, but I haven't taken a rabbit yet with non-toxic 22s.
Okay.
They're a great little bullet. They're made out of basically copper dust and polymer adhesive. And they're molded into a 22 bullet, and I've had no complaints with them. I use my personal choice is to hunt with non-toxic, regardless whether it's bullets or shot shells. And yeah, I mean the game that I put on the table, the food that I put on the table doesn't seem to care that I'm using non-toxic, and I feel better about it because I'm not putting lead out onto the landscape, and I'm not putting it on my table, and
right.
That's my choice.
I put this little comment in here about bow hunters can take small game with judo points or small game type broadheads. So there's a picture there of a small game type broadhead. I've seen guys use blunts, which is just a rubber bullet or a bullet type tip on an arrow, and you learn about range estimation. You learn about shot placement. So it's another tool that you can use if you're a bow hunter and you want to get out there and do something with your archery equipment later in the year. Maybe take your bow. Benji, I missed you. Did you hunt with a 22 at all, or just
A little bit, yeah. If you get up early, I like sitting on the edge of a field or something like that, where, especially in the winter, if you get a field with some dogwoods or something along the edge where those rabbits are going to get out and they're going to start chewing on that bark and stuff at sunrise or sunset. And if you get a nice comfortable spot to sit down and just can't wait for them to come out, that's a good way to get out there and do that.
That's a great thing to point out. Rabbits will eat the bark as a winter food source on young aspen or the dogwoods. And so if you're walking through an area and you start seeing, like it looked like a mini beaver was out there chewing the bark around those trees, that's rabbits. And so you're in a good rabbit feeding area, and it may benefit you to spend a little bit of time looking around in there for them too.
And like you said earlier, they don't venture too far. So if you find a couple good feeding areas,
they'll hang right around that.
They're pretty close by.
So tularemia is one of the rabbit diseases that you really need to watch out for. It affects the liver of the rabbits. So when you're cleaning your rabbits or field dressing them, you want to wear latex gloves or non-latex if you have latex allergies, I guess. And it can be transmitted by ticks or deer fly bites. contact with your skin. And if you think you've been exposed to it, the doctors might put you on antibiotics to take care of that. The other one is it's basically like a worm, and they'll create large boils on each of the big back legs. And we got a rabbit that had this blistery looking thing on the side of the thigh, and being boys, we had to open that up to see what it was in there, and it was kind of a jelly-like substance with little white worms in it. And that rabbit didn't end up going in the pot. There was something going on there that we didn't know what it was and didn't want to introduce it to our families. So my favorite way is just to skin dress the rabbit. I usually do the field dressing after I get the skin off. You can usually cut the rabbit halfway just through the skin and pull in each direction, and you can pull that hide off pretty quick. But as kids, we would skin them out case skinned, and we would tack those little hides up on a board, and we would salt them down, and they became dresser toppers or little table doilies, so to speak. And so we got to enjoy just having the rabbit skin around. There's a picture there. It shows the different cuts of meat that you can get off a rabbit. They actually have back straps, and it's probably about the size of a dime, maybe a little bit bigger. And we would cut those into chunks. We'd flour everything, pan fry them, season them with a mixture of salts and peppers and paprikas. And then Lori's seasonal salt came out, and it's like, oh, it's got everything in it. So we just had to buy one thing. And I guess I'm a little bit old fashioned. I know you guys call me the Northwoods Guru once in a while, but making a simple milk gravy with the drippings in the pan, oh my God, I would pour that over top of the rabbits and plug in the crock pot. And there was something special, and you guys will agree with me, I'm sure, that any meal that as a kid that you provided from your own work by going out there and collecting the grouse or the rabbits or the squirrels and preparing it for your family, that's when that animal had a real value, because it was some of the best rabbit I've ever eaten, because I got it, I cleaned it, I cooked it, and served it to my family. And we still enjoy it, you know. We've got cottontails around our 25 acres there that every once in a while we'll get one before the fox does, and cut it up and put it out for the family. And this next picture, oh, go ahead, Benji.
No, go ahead.
Got a recipe? How did you guys prepare?
I've always liked to, put them in a crock pot, make it with cream of mushroom soup or cream of chicken soup. Is my mom's favorite, and then just over some noodles.
Oh,
cube meat up, kind of like, I forget what they call that, goulash or whatever, but
yep.
It was always good.
We did make rabbit burger one year, and we had so many rabbits that we thought, well, let's try grinding them up, and you get a hamburger-like texture, but they're so devoid of fat that they cook really, really quick. So you had to be careful when you were making rabbit burgers. You don't want to add some fat to them, or you'd get real dry consistency. But you could use that meat in anything, you know.
Yeah.
It looks a lot like chicken, but, you know, I've heard people, it tastes like chicken, but not really. So this is the gentleman in the glasses. He's Austin Fisher, our brand new assistant wildlife manager here in Grand Rapids. And you probably can't tell by looking, but those are Wisconsin rabbits. So they have Wisconsin rabbits for our guys that have been from Wisconsin. And I just thought I'd throw that picture in there. A couple of friends from college. Austin was a senior in the wildlife program, and they went out rabbit hunting one afternoon. It's just a fun way to spend a day. So that's what I got. I have seen a few questions popping in. The new format, they pop up on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the PowerPoint down. and we can try and answer some questions for you guys.
Yeah, I think when we do that, we figured out the poll thing, Craig. I think we have to be we can't do it while the presenter has the sharing
Oh.
ball. So Cassie can maybe do that while we're answering some questions, though. And
Sure.
Leah asked about, she wants to learn more about snaring or trapping rabbits. She doesn't own a gun, but she was gifted some traps. We do have a trapping talk that we put on, what was that, last winter? I believe that might answer a couple of those questions. I also did put a link in there, or a section from our rules and regulations booklet
Mm-hmm.
to you. It's on page, look here, I think page 53. You can snare rabbits. It's a pretty effective way. I've set snares. I've never had a whole lot of luck snaring rabbits. I've never really targeted them with snares either. But there's a difference. There's some different rules and regulations between the northern forest zone and the southern farm zone.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for public land. The forest zone has more availability on public land than the farm zone does. So snares are allowed after October 29th, it looks like, in the farm zone. But make sure you check up on those regulations. And if you are trapping, you do have to have a trapping license in Minnesota, and you do have to take a class from the Minnesota Trappers Association. So, and they're the ones that will really be able to answer those questions for you and get you familiar with that and provide a lot of information and feedback for you. So,
If I was going to go out and snare rabbits, I would go out and look for active runways. I mean, they'll get packed very hard because why build a new trail when there's one right here that we can use? And find some low-hanging brush where you can put that snare on there. Got to keep it small. I mean, probably that big around. A rabbit's head isn't much bigger than your fist. So if your fist will fit through it, that's a good size. Maybe slightly bigger. And I've used traps, like a 1.5 or a number 1 Victor, smaller jump spring type traps, leg hold traps. And, they'll work, but the tradition, I think, says snaring is the best way, because you can carry a small spool of wire with you and make lots and lots of snares out of them. Got another question coming, Benji? Or
I was trying to. I'm seeing a couple of these in the chat, and then I'll get over to the Q&A because I reminded people to put them in the Q&A. So if we can continue to do that, that'd be great. Maverick made a comment in here. He likes to have people over, and he has a couple outdoor cats that he likes to take out. I think they would be rendered useless by a fast animal, and never hunted with cats, to tell you the truth. So not a big fan of cats running all over the place, but
yeah,
I guess they'd probably get in a brush pile and scare a rabbit out once in a while. But
they probably could. They're just so independent, where a dog tends to be, he wants to hang around you more. A cat wants to hang around you when they want to, and they might be hunting for themselves. So I'd stick with a dog, but it might be an excuse to bring a dog into the family. Is we're going to start rabbit hunting, and how can the wife say no to a beagle when you're going to be a rabbit hunter?
there you go.
If she's ever heard a beagle bark, there's still pretty good, easy ways to say no to a beagle.
Well, we're not going to tell them that they bark like that.
Gotcha.
I had a buddy, my buddy Nathaniel has beagles, and they are a bunch of fun to hunt behind for rabbits. But you got to be fast because those rabbits come out of there about 40 miles an hour, it seems like. So, Dave had a question there. Hunting snowshoe, no dog, and find lots of tracks, but not the rabbits. What am I doing wrong? Walking, stopping, looking, repeating. Any tips to helping track a rabbit and get them flushed out?
They're there because their tracks are there. So you got to try and figure out where they're bedding in that area. What are they feeding on? And like Benji said, early in the morning, that first warm sun shining into that area, they're probably there. But if you're getting out there later in the morning, they might be gone already and back to their den. I've seen rabbits in the afternoon, you know, and you hunt the same way as you would deer or anything else. That daytime, if I was going to go out and be a daytime, middle of the day type rabbit hunter, I think that's where having a dog would be real beneficial, because they're going to root them out of whatever cover they're in. And but yeah, I would say they're there, Dave. Just keep looking for them. Make sure you walk nice and slow. You know, take a step and just observe all around you, because at this time of year they're going to have just that black eye. Everything else is going to be white. They may have a little black tip on their ears, but they're easy to walk by, and they'll hold tight, just within, you know, feet of where you're standing, and not move. I've shot some that were 3 feet away, 4 feet away, and they just want to hang real tight to where you're at.
That's a trick I'd have too when I was walking by. If you don't look at them and kind of keep going, so you can get your safety off and make sure you're loaded up, and then swing and shoot. Because as soon as you stop and stare at them, off they go. So you got to be kind of quick on that. So, and I think
Question.
small game hunting in rabbit particularly, it's a great way to involve kids. So if you don't have dogs, if you can find a couple of kids, obviously safety is a big concern, but if you can post the shooter on a little stump or something, or a piece of higher ground, and then have people, have them walk forward, and then have, somebody kind of zigzag up through some rough stuff and get those rabbits to run out in front of them. Obviously safety is of big concern, so you really have to talk and communicate and be in communication with each other on that. But
I see Maverick got his question put over here on this side now, and beagles were bred for trailing, so that's why we say that. Most bird dogs, we work really hard to train them not to chase rabbits. I had a buddy with a black lab that would hunt everything, and if you shot a rabbit, she would retrieve it. It's just, hey, this is my job. I'm out here to hunt with you, for you. And you bring up an interesting topic after the cats there about using hawks. And I'm not sure what the rules are on obtaining a hawk or a falcon, but I do know of a few folks that hunt both birds and small game with them. And I think that's kind of an interesting way to go. James,
they're pretty effective. I had an eagle eating a squirrel in my backyard yesterday, so they can catch them.
Did you get to see any hunters with birds of prey, James, when you were working?
Yeah. I lived for a little bit over in Mongolia, and they have an eagle hunting tradition in Western Mongolia with the Kazakh people, and they would use golden eagles to hunt fox and small game and rabbits. And yeah, I was able to go out and see them work the birds, work the land, and it's a very interesting and fascinating tradition. I mean, golden eagles, that's a big bird. That's it's got some heft to it. So watching them work those birds and train them up, and it was really fascinating. So yeah, you can definitely use birds of prey to go after rabbits. People do it quite a bit, and there's a Minnesota Falconry Association that you can check into, and they are pretty active, and they have some pretty widespread opportunities around the state. So highly recommend checking in with them if that's a route that you're curious about. It's it's a relationship. It's a relationship with the bird. It's a relationship with how you're moving through the landscape. So but it's really interesting.
If you were going to be a falcon hunter, I don't know how cats and falcons would get along together.
Probably not the best, but That's
Probably look
that,
like a household rabbit to them.
Yep.
So let's see here.
See, Daniel put one in there for you, Craig. What distance would you recommend setting in at 22 for hunting rabbits and or squirrels?
25 yards would be a good distance, and then I would do some practicing. Cut that distance in half and see what kind of group you shoot at 10 yards, because some of them might be that close or closer. And then try a 50-yard shot and just see how well your gun will group at 50 yards. I was telling the guys earlier, I've got a heavy barreled target rifle that probably weighs 8 pounds, but it'll shoot quarter size groups at 50 yards all day long, but I don't know how well it would carry in the field for long distance rabbit hunting. But, and I mentioned in there earlier about the other calibers, like a 17 HMR. That thing is a speed demon. They took a 22 Magnum case, they necked it down so it's got a bottleneck on it, and they put in a 17 to 20 grain bullet, so half the bullet weight of a 22 mag or 22 long rifle. And you got to use the right bullets in those, because if you use the polymer tipped ones, they're very explosive. And the whole idea of collecting that rabbit would be to bring it home for the table. So we don't want to, shoot great big holes through our rabbits. 22 mag is a 75 to 100 yard gun. And, in the hands of the right hunter, maybe you go out and spot and stock and some open stands of young aspen, and you might see that far, and just try your luck at a little bit longer distance shooting. But again,
It's prairie dog distance there.
They're very powerful rounds, and if you hit them in the body, you can basically get 2 pieces of rabbit out of one. So you got to be careful with your selection.
Dave put another comment in there. He thinks he's getting out too late in the morning. And one of the other things I've done in the morning, and I've hunted some stuff. I like trout fishing, so I hang out around streams a little bit. But if you come into streams in midday, it limits where the rabbit can go to. They're not going to swim. So you can kind of limit their escape routes. So if you're running around midday and find a stream or something, come in that and maybe post somebody up one way from you, and you can watch them running south, and somebody else can watch them running north, and it might be a way to get some rabbits too. So Thomas put in there, the roadside surveys are showing that jackrabbits are almost extirpated from Minnesota. Will there be a season on this species in years to come, you think?
That's going to be up to our wildlife people. They're going to look at population density, and we may have to limit jackrabbit hunting in the Southwest. But rabbits have the potential of breeding big litters in short periods of time, and the numbers can come back. I hope they don't completely disappear from the landscape, because it's interesting to see jackrabbits. As a hunter, I have an opportunity and it's legal to do so. It's fun to collect one, but I don't think I'd go out and if their population is low as a hunter, maybe I switch to a different species. Maybe I move up into that cottontail realm and get better quality eating. So I don't think they'll look at the population and they'll make some decisions, but I hope they don't disappear from the landscape.
James, you want to take a stab at Dave's last question I see on here is, are rabbits more diurnal or nocturnal animals, and how are they affected by cold weather and deep snow?
Well, they do like to get out kind of in those early morning hours. I mean, rabbits are funny little critters. Their physiology is a little different than some other small game. They're not going to hibernate so much during the winter. Like squirrels and ground squirrels are going to go into a torpor and really just kind of sleep for extended periods of time. Rabbits they're usually out. They're usually pretty active. And so, after a cold night, they're really looking for calories. And so they're getting out and they're hitting the browse of what they can get. Sometimes deep snow can be it's a double-edged sword. For one, it makes browse more accessible to some of the rabbits. Like as that snow first hits, they're gonna like Craig said, they're gonna hit the base of some of those young aspen and hit the bark at that base. And as the snow gets deeper, it's making more of that stem accessible. They're not giraffes; they can't reach up very high, so they're using that snow to ladder up, quote unquote,
Yep.
and get into some additional browse. So that could be beneficial. The downside to deep snow is sometimes the clever little buggers will just tunnel under it, and so you won't even see tracks. You'll just see these little eruption mounds where they come out, and a good watch your other predators while you're out there. Look for, foxes. I think, a lot of people have seen the National Geographic specials where the fox is like stalking on top of the snow and listening. And, sometimes that's mice and sometimes that's voles and sometimes that's rabbits. And they'll take a big hop and just dive right down into the snow. And all you see is this foxtail kicking around. Watch for raptors. Birds of prey you'll see where they'll go after tunneling small game in the snow. And it'll look really weird because it'll be a completely clean snow field, and then you just see these imprints of wings in the snow, and that's where birds come down and gone after something that's tunneling under. So deep snow can be a benefit to the rabbits because it makes it easier for them to access stuff, but it can also be a hindrance because it makes it harder to find them sometimes.
And it provides excellent insulation.
Absolutely.
So
yep.
If the weather's getting cold, that snowpack is going to provide or hold in the warmth around the rabbits or whatever else is. And nature does a really, really good job at putting critters in places where they're going to thrive. And deep snow up here, you go out walking, snowshoeing or whatever, and you go across a pristine snow area, and all of a sudden the grouse will come erupting up out of the snow right in front of your snowshoes, and it's like heart stop, what the heck was going on? But it was down there getting the insulation value of that snow. So
yep. But that could be something to track on. If you get a good heavy snowfall, it's not uncommon to get several inches of snow at a time sometimes. Maybe take that opportunity to look at spots that would have been forage that was inaccessible without that snowfall. If you've got stuff that still has green on it, if you've got stuff that has some fresh aspen that hasn't been nibbled on yet, mark those spots and go take a look, because those rabbits know where that food is. That's for sure.
Yep. And if you
gonna
can
find
find a logging site where they piled the tops, it doesn't take them long to figure out that, hey, there's some good gnawing on those popple tops, and you can hunt around the edge of those after the logging operations are done and maybe find. But I don't know.
As the winter and the temperature goes down, it's those food sources become a lot more important, and because those rabbits need calories, because they're that's how they're going to make it through.
I guess the best message that I can give you guys is just grab your favorite 22 or a shotgun and go for a walk in the winter woods. We can select the right clothing to go out there and be comfortable in. But go out and give it a try. There's a lot of stuff that you can do through the end of February that it fills in that void on the calendar, breaks up the ice fishing trips a little bit. So get out there and give it a try.
Yeah, we're just about out of time, so I was just looking at the poll here, and there's about half the people have purchased their small game license, and half of them have hunted rabbits, and a little less than half are planning on going out. So maybe we
Good.
can encourage a couple of you that aren't planning to get out and try rabbit hunting this year. I know James and Craig would probably agree, if you can bring somebody out there along with you, it helps to flush out some rabbits, and it's always a great idea to introduce somebody new to the sport. So
Right.
get out there and do that. I did mention in the I guess the ad for this and the news release out there that you can find a new lucky rabbit's foot. But I know when I was a kid, we used to take the rabbit's feet and we put them in rubbing alcohol and soak them for a couple days, and then put them in a solution with borax and water and soak them for a couple more days, and then let them dry out. It's a good way to give a treat to a kid that's out there helping you or shoots his first rabbit. So get his lucky rabbit's foot. So I think Cassie just put something in there about one last question. Or did either of you see that?
Nope.
I was talking and missed it. So, but thank you everybody for joining us.
Hey, tune in next week too. We got a really good show coming up next week on training your hunting dog. And rumor has it that Santa is going to bring me a Springer Spaniel puppy. So
Better you than me.
Well, you can tune in tomorrow next week, Craig, for training your hunting puppy.
Yep.
And I just got a message from Leah. The document I was referring to on I believe it was page 51, is in the hunting and trapping regulations. Page 52, actually, it is. And then Mark asked again about drying rabbit's feet. Mark, it's pretty common on, I think, online. I'm sure you can find it. Rubbing alcohol for a couple days, rinse it out really well, put it in a solution of borax and water, and for a couple more days, and rinse it out really well and dry it out, and should be good to go. So
thank you guys for sharing your lunchtime with us today, and check out the recordings later on. That's all I got, Benji.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Hopefully we'll see you next week.